Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, to Michael and Alberta King. His parents named him Michael King Jr. at birth, but both father and son would eventually change their names to Martin Luther King. Martin Jr., along with his older sister, Willie Christine, and younger brother, Alfred Daniel Williams, lived with their parents and grandmother in a prominent neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin Sr. was a disciplinary parent who tried to shield his children from racism. Martin Sr. fought against racial prejudice and discouraged any sense of class superiority within his children. Martin Jr. began his college career at Morehouse at the age of 15. It was at Morehouse College that Martin Jr. would renew his faith and begin his career in the ministry. He graduated from Morehouse College with a degree in sociology and obtained a Bachelor of Divinity degree from Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania. Dr. King received his doctorate in systematic theology from Boston University in 1955. It was in Boston that he met his future wife, Coretta Scott. Dr. Martin Luther King married Coretta Scott King in 1953. Ms. King was also an American civil rights activist and leader until her death in 2006. They were married until his death in 1968. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had 4 children: Dexter Scott King, Martin Luther King III, Yolanda King, and Bernice King, with his wife Coretta. Named one of the most encouraging and inspirational preachers of all time from 1960 until his death, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the co-pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, along with his father being named senior pastor. The beginning of Dr. King's part in the civil rights movement began with the bus boycott, which was led by the Montgomery Improvement Association, otherwise known as MIA, that made Dr. King their leader. This boycott continued for 13 years, sparked initially by Rosa Parks, until the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that segregation of buses was unconstitutional. Leading 8 peaceful protests throughout his adulthood, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that nonviolent protest was the most effective weapon against an unjust society. Dr. King was attacked many times by people not accepting his views. His house was bombed while he was at Mass. He also received threatening phone calls as well as being stabbed.
Walk, walk, I'm gonna walk, walk, I'm gonna walk, walk, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna talk.
We had to march. Selma was a place where people could not register to vote. People had stood in unmovable lines. There was a tremendous amount of fear. I remember so well when we arrived at the top of the bridge. Down below we saw a sea of blue. Alabama state troopers.
It'll be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You are to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
You saw these men putting on their gas masks, and they came toward us.
Advance toward the group. See that they disperse.
I was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. I had a concussion at the bridge. I thought it was my last demonstration. Thought I was going to die.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went to jail after hosting protests in Birmingham, Alabama, for the difficult living conditions for blacks in the city. Dr. King wrote a famous letter to the newspaper explaining why he broke the law that stated he was not allowed to protest in Montgomery. Dr. King was also involved in the historic March on Washington in 1963. More than 250,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial to hear Dr. King give his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. This speech brought much attention to the civil rights movement nationwide and worldwide. It led Congress to move more quickly with passing the Civil Rights Acts. This is not the first speech Dr. King gave at the Lincoln Memorial.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. That one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
In this speech, Dr. Martin Luther King demanded racial justice for the United States and argued for a more integrated society that saw all people of the nation as being created equal. By 1964, his contributions and efforts began to receive national recognition. At the age of 35, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s role was leader of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, during which he received the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent campaign against racism. He was the youngest person to have ever received this award. He was also on the cover of Time magazine and was named Man of the Year by the magazine as well. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on April 4, 1968, on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. He is seen here shortly before his death. Dr. King and his wife are both now buried at a historic site in Atlanta. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life legacy has continued to live on in history and impact the world as we know it today. His dream of a better world has come to pass largely in part due to his contributions and willingness to fight for a more just and righteous society. His life and legacy will be remembered.